All right, it is summer, and what I get asked more than anything these days seems to be how do you book a tour? Because lots of bands are looking to get out on the road during the summer and the early fall, get seen and heard by new audiences. How do you go about doing that if you've never done it before? I have Dave from the Indie Bible on the phone with me, and he's going to share his wisdom. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Sherry.
How are you?
Very good. Great to be back.
So good to have you. Bands all over the place are like, now's the time, let's get on the road. It's summer road trip. There's a lot more than just piling all your equipment into a car and heading out.
Well, that's right. I mean, the first thing you have to take into consideration is what is the backlog? You can't just say, you know what, let's go on tour and expect openings to be all over the place within the next few weeks. There's a lot of bands out there, and a lot of them have been touring for years, so they're very capable of booking, and venues are getting them back for a second time. So it's a task that has to be planned out in quite a distance ahead of actually when you want to go out. Actually, that's the same thing for festivals. Festivals, I think they kind of start booking the day after the festival's over, sort of thing. So you want to really get a jump on these things to just make sure that you get as many openings as possible.
Okay, well that makes sense, and I hadn't thought about that maybe you'd need, what would you say, several months, or what is the time frame?
I would say, especially since the summer is so busy, I would say when the peak season of wherever it is you want to tour. So, for instance, the Northeast or the Northwest, the summer is the optimal time. You would want, I'm guessing, I would say 3 or 4 months ahead. If you want to do a winter tour like the coast of Florida or Mississippi, one of the warmer climates, maybe California, then you would want to be in touch with them 3 or 4 months before the winter comes. That sort of idea, like the tourist areas. There's a few books you can pick up on that sort of thing, but it's one of these things you can play by ear. But I would say let's say at least 4 months, and start with that.
Okay. Well, that sounds like good common sense. Get in before the crowds. Get yourself scheduled and on the books. So that's smart. Now, how does a band go about even how do you choose? Like, do you look at the road maps to see what towns are on the way, or how do you plan that?
Well, let's say you want to do a statewide tour, or even a 4-state tour. That's exactly what you would do. Being in Canada, I mean, one of the things about Canada is it's this gigantic country, but there's not a lot of places to be. There's big gaps. When I go to New Jersey or New York or even Florida, different places in the States, it's just one place after another. So they're not all going to be cities, but they're going to be communities that could sustain a live band.
Right.
So you really want to get a feel for the territory you're in. It's going to be a little more sparse if you're in North or South Dakota, or Northern California. But if you're in populated areas or sparse areas, you still want to plan it so you're not kind of doing a zigzag, going from A to Z, then back to B, then to K. You kind of want to make it as gas friendly as possible. So it's a bit of a geography lesson. Find out, okay, we want to play in Ohio. We want to tour Ohio. Let's start working through Ohio and pick your starting point, and then to the best of your ability, shape it so that your tour is kind of going in a certain direction, but it's also going in a direction with the time. So let's say you're going northerly, you're playing one spot on a Saturday, then the next Saturday or the next Wednesday you're playing someplace that's in the same direction, on and on. So it's not easy to do. A lot of people, what they do is they cheat. So they'll go to somebody that tours a lot, they'll go to their webpage and just kind of see, okay, what tour did they plan out? And so, I mean, music's all about creative borrowing, right down to the touring, and kind of saying, okay, what kind of tour did these people plan out? But there is help, because a few years ago, I had this idea, like people have been urging me to create a venue directory. And I didn't know actually at the time how much, but I knew there was going to be a phenomenal amount of work involved. So what I did is just for my own city, I created this, I was kind of using some ideas that I wanted to be a little bit different, and I wanted it to take care of some of the issues that I had with some of the current directories that they had out there. And first of all, it was going to be electronic so that I could upgrade it or update it. And secondly, something that really bothered me before was a lot of the directories, you look under the, the venue name, and for styles of music it would have everything, or a whole bunch of different genres. And from talking to the different venue owners, I knew that everything never meant everything, so it wasn't really telling you anything. Yeah. So if you went to them and say, well, I'm a country and western star, they would say, well, no, we don't have country and western. Or I'm a death metal, oh no, we don't have death metal. So they weren't really helping anybody. So if you're in a metal band, or if you're a country and western artist, it was still kind of confusing as to where you could play. So what I wanted to make is the main selling points of this directory was two things. One, that people could look at it and right away they would know what genres of music that it featured. But secondly, that it not only covered the main areas, but all the little areas in between. So if you're going, between, Rochester and New York City, there would be all these little towns along the way that would be listed in the directory. So yeah, I mean, it's laid out for you, but I mean, it's still a lot of kind of like crazy math. It's really a juggling act that can't be avoided just because of maybe there's a couple towns along the way that they're just booked up for the next few months. So you can't wait, and if you could go ahead and kind of zigzag back, you're just going to have to do that sometimes.
Okay, so I get that. The optimal thing would be you play a show, next night, 2.5 hours down the road, you play another one, and so on, but life doesn't always work that way. You got to be flexible.
Exactly, you have to be very flexible.
Okay, so any other things that are, hidden in all of that? I guess for me, I've always thought venues, locally bands play large venues, and you go out and you pay for your ticket and you go in and you see the show. But a lot of bands, when they're touring, aren't so much looking for that as they're looking for a restaurant that gives a guarantee so that they're making a little money to pay for the gas and the food. Right. What are they looking for? Because that's totally different, in my mind, it's totally different.
Well, things have really changed the last few years. Just the economic downswing, of course, people are sick of hearing that, but it's a reality.
Yeah.
The second is bars really lost a lot of customers when they kind of tightened up the liquor laws and they created the smoking ban. So it means people are still going out to party, but it's not like the old days. It used to be a bit more like the Wild West. You go drinking and you do your thing, and places would be packed. So what a lot of venue owners now, they're quite weary of having a band because it's expensive to have bands. So in a lot of cases, they want you to guarantee so many seats, which is hard to do if you're playing in a state that's not even your state or you're in your area. To do that, like to have guaranteed numbers for them. So it's very difficult to kind of build some momentum. It can be done, of course, because a lot of bands are doing it. But when you're flat-footed, when you're just starting out, it's going to be the most difficult time, just because you don't have, first of all, you don't have the reputation or the buzz that follows a lot of these bands, and secondly, because you are unknown, these venue owners will say, well, I can't take a risk with you. I'm just barely paying the bills here. I have to get, the Foxy Bloodhounds back and to get them to play this Friday because I know they're going to fill the place. So that's the problem that bands are facing now, is just kind of the economic crunch too. So that has to be considered as well.